that's on my list for sure. Somehow it seems to happen at the wrong time, because they call and they're like, "We're going tomorrow." It's like,
Is every day?
yeah,
It's way out there.
yeah.
A long
the
day,
Bluefin, they
long
were
trip.
off the coast of Mexico, being in San Diego.
Oh, good for
For
him.
3 days.
Okay, are we ready, Jane? Are we ready, Debbie?
We are.
Okay. We have one clock says 9 o'clock.
Pick your clock.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us by going online to our website or to tctvonline.com. Click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. So, Debbie, do we have anyone sign up in the room today, or has anyone registered online for public comment?
Yeah, no to both of those.
All right, thank you. Well, we'll call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Olson, will you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we don't have any non-agenda items today, so we're going to jump right in with item 5, which is consideration of a resolution proclaiming May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Tillamook County, Oregon. With us this morning, we have Amanda Ferrat. I'd like to invite you to come up to the table. Amanda is the coordinator. I'm not sure what your title is.
The lead for Tillamook County Suicide Prevention Coalition.
Lead, thank you, for Tillamook County Suicide Prevention Coalition. And Amanda brought this proclamation to us, and also she is involved right now in a series of events called Hope Fest that I hope you'll talk about those to us, because I know we have one upcoming on Friday.
Yes.
So you have the floor.
Thank you. And thank you for having me here today. So nationally, May is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month, but I would love to have it recognized here officially in Tillamook County, and specifically have the third Thursday of every month deemed as Mental Health Action Day, and specifically wear green day, because green is the color for mental health awareness. And the reason for this is just to show the state of Oregon and the world that we care about mental health, that it is something we prioritize. And when we focus on and center mental health awareness in a way that is kind of public knowledge, it allows people to have hard conversations around mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and those other difficult topics. It might give someone permission to say, hey, I'm struggling, I need help, where do I find help? It might give them avenues to find resources. And what it also does is it shows our county that we're serious about this as a subject, and that can help me get further grants, get more providers here. If we show, we have an issue getting enough mental health providers here in this county. There's a plethora of reasons, but part of that is I don't think they know that we care. I'm a grad school dropout. I was going to be a licensed clinical social worker, and I think people just don't know that there's an opportunity here to come and practice and provide mental health services and live 15 minutes from the ocean. And so I think the more public we make this known and we care about it as a county, the more potential we have to get more access to services, get more people in care, and just provide our county with what it needs to be a well-resourced and cared for county.
Thank you.
Yes.
Would you like to talk about Hope Fest?
Yes. So I received a grant for the coalition last year from Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Alliance to Prevent Suicide. And so our major grant projects, we knew we wanted to do some sort of mental health fair, and we'd figure out a name later. But we wanted these to include access to resources and information. We wanted them to include at least a QPR gatekeeper training. QPR is kind of that entry-level suicide prevention training. So similar to CPR, the more people train in CPR, the more likely we are to save a life if somebody has a heart attack or something that needs CPR as an intervention. The more people train in QPR, the more likely we are to recognize clues that somebody's thinking about suicide and save a life and prevent a suicide death. So they will have QPR training, and then we also know how important it is to center the voices of those with lived experience. So we have included a survivor storytelling, and a survivor is anybody that has had their own struggles with mental health or suicidal ideation or past suicide attempts, or anybody that has lost someone that they loved and cared about to suicide. And I'm passionate about that because I grew up as a suicide loss survivor. And I've also had my own struggles with mental health and suicidal ideation. So I'm just super passionate about this topic, and I'm really excited to be doing the work that I am here in Tillamook County.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to join you at the Hope Fest event at North County Recreation District last week. I thought it was excellent, well done. There were a lot of resources there. There were a lot of really dedicated people there. I overheard great conversations. There was a nice meal. The storytelling event was meaningful. I appreciated hearing your story, and I wonder if you'd like to talk about specifically the upcoming event at TBCC.
Yes,
This
so
week.
we've done one or are doing one in each part of the county, and part of that was for accessibility. Because again, we wanted to make sure this conversation is happening in every part of our county. So we have our last one happening this Friday, May 17th at Tillamook Bay Community College from 3 to 8 p.m. We still have room in the QPR training if people want to register for that. We do ask that people register ahead of time so that we make sure we've got enough seats for everybody. And people can do that by emailing tcspcinfo@gmail.com. We still have room for more storytellers as well. And we are providing, for the first 50 folks at RSVP, we are providing dinner again because community care helps take care of folks, and food is totally suicide prevention. And we're having dinner catered by Garibaldi Portside Bistro. But we'll have a great set of resource folks there. We will be doing another computer training and then the survivor storytelling. And then this one, since we've got a little more time and space, we're going to have some rock painting and some other things going on up in the conference room during the event as well. So it'll be a great thing for folks to just come check out. All the resource tables have fun swag. So if swag and food are a motivator, then please come. But like you said, it's a great space for us to start having those really hard conversations in a safe and meaningful way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will be there this Friday, and I haven't done the QPR training yet. And I've listened to Frank Cannon Williams talk about it for several years now, and I haven't done it yet. So I'm going to do the QPR training with you this Friday. So I'm looking forward to that. So, and I know that Commissioner Scar has done it, so I wonder if you want to speak to that.
Sure, yeah, I have. I did the QPR training a couple of years ago, and it is really, really a worthwhile training. And, you talk about preparing our community similar to how we prepare for CPR, and I love that sort of comparison because I think most of us at some point in our life have probably been trained for CPR, and we know what the immediate things are that we need to think about if we were to come upon someone who's not breathing, but most of us freeze. We don't know what to do if we're talking with someone and they say things that make us think they might be considering self-harm. We don't know what to do, and we're so afraid of doing the wrong thing that we do nothing often. And what QPR really taught me was there are some very easy things that I can do, questions I can ask just to kind of engage that individual, right? In a safe way. They're not asking me to be a therapist. I'm not supposed to solve this problem with them, but it gives me an opportunity to engage with them and find out what I think I heard in what they were saying is what I heard, and then all the resources that I need to make that referral are at my fingertips. I still have a little card that has all of that on it that I keep with me. So it's really, again, it's not this deep, intense, oh my gosh, I have to be a therapist. It is just what I do as a mental health first responder, right? What are the first things that you do to help someone? And that's just, it's something we should all have in our pocket. So I'm excited that it's there. I'm glad that you're going to do it. I hope that everyone will do it. My daughter's senior project, which she did a couple of years ago, was doing the youth QPR for all freshmen at Tillamook High School. So I wish there was some sort of longitudinal study just to see, if that had the impact that she had hoped that it would. But it's important, and it's important for us as adults, and it's important for our youth, all the way across the spectrum. So I'm excited that Hope Fest is there and that people can participate. So if you haven't signed up and you're watching today, it is a great training, and Garibaldi Portside Bistro is always, always a meal you want to have.
Yes.
So I hope that you'll get a full 50 folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda submitted to us the proclamation, which I appreciate your work in this, and there were disturbing statistics in it. So I looked some of them up because some of them were shocking. For example, Oregon was ranked 51st of 50 states in 2023 in regard to prevalence of mental health, and 30th in regard to access to care by Mental Health America. So I was thinking, 51st, come on. So I looked it up, sure enough, 51st. And there were a number of those rankings, and we were, in several of them, we were abysmally low. We were the lowest in the entire nation. So that's sobering, and I just appreciate your work, your research in putting together this proclamation. Also, you mentioned the third Thursday in May as Mental Health Action and Wear Green Day. So what would you like people to do about that?
I would just like folks to show up in green, because again, if, I'm not somebody that wears green, so if I wear green, I think people are going to be like, oh, and again, dress up in your brightest and boldest, because it's going to give people an opportunity to have that conversation. You can see I'm wearing my green ribbon today. I've been wearing that all the time, every chance I get in May. But again, the more we kind of make it loud and out there and visible, the more we can have those conversations. And it's just a way to have fun with this. So Mental Health Action Day is a day where they kind of, MTV has been involved in the past. Mental Health America makes a big deal out of it. And what they do is it's a way to encourage folks to spend at least an hour that day doing something about mental health, whether that's for themselves or in their communities. And so really, since this is our first year, I just want to have some fun with it, get people to wear green, and so we can start having those conversations. And it's great that it's the day before our final Hope Fest, so hopefully it'll help give us a push for that final Hope Fest, so again, we can continue the conversations.
So if people wear green tomorrow, because tomorrow's the third Thursday, what are the action steps? Do you want them to post to Instagram, or what do you want them to do?
So Tillamook County Suicide Prevention Coalition has both a Facebook and an Instagram, and so we're going to be using the hashtag #WearGreenTillamook. So if you take a picture of you dressed up in your green and post it either to Facebook or Instagram, just be sure to use the hashtag #WearGreenTillamook. I'll be monitoring those hashtags, and there will be a prize yet to be determined, but I'm working on something good for whoever shows up the best and brightest in their green tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner Olson, you have any questions, comments?
No, I have no questions, but thank you, Commissioner. I do appreciate what you do. I guess it brings to mind a story when I was growing up. I knew a family that was about 2 blocks down the street. The All-American family. The father had a professional position, and two boys. Both of them were really good friends and still are today. And the mother suffered from some problems and was ultimately institutionalized, came back home, and then took her own life. And so I guess my point is we've all been touched by that at some time. That was a long time ago, but I can see that day, as clear as I'm looking at you today when I learned of it. So I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
I appreciate the Mental Health Awareness Day. We've talked a lot about Hope Fest, but one of the things that that's in here that I think is important is the stigma piece around mental health and recognizing that mental health, like physical health, it's not something you either have or don't have. It's something that we all have, and we have varying degrees of health. We have varying degrees of health challenges, and mental health is absolutely no different than that. We can have really good mental health on one day. We can have a challenge in our mental health on another day. I mean, it's just part of who we are, and it seems really challenging for us to change that narrative in our community so that when someone is saying, gosh, my mental health day is not as good as I'd like it to be, that we can just say, I'm so sorry, is there something I can do to help, right? Rather than saying, oh, they have a mental health problem, right? When someone says, I'm not feeling well today, we say, I'm sorry to hear that. Can I get you some chicken soup, or do you need something for your cold, right? But we don't see mental health in the same way, and yet it is just part of our health. So I think as this kind of work brings these conversations to the forefront, it's the opportunity to continue to talk about mental health as what it is, which is it's just part of our health. And there should be no reason that we wouldn't share if we're having a bad mental health day. We shouldn't, that we shouldn't seek treatment, all the things that stigma keeps us from doing. So I appreciate you bringing it forward so we can have this conversation. I appreciate the Wear Green Action Day, because to your point, that can drive more of those conversations. We have the opportunity to change the narrative in our community around mental health, and it takes things like this for us to spend the time and energy to do so. So thank you for that.
I think we're ready for a motion. Would you like to read the proclamation?
I would be happy to. In the matter of proclaiming May as Mental Health Awareness Month and the third Thursday in May as Mental Health Action and Wear Green Day in Tillamook County, Resolution R-24-008. This matter came before the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners on May 15, 2024, at the request of the Tillamook County Suicide Prevention Coalition. The board, being fully apprised, finds as follows. May is nationally recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month and was established in 1949 by Mental Health America. The third Thursday in May is Mental Health Action and Wear Green Day. Green is the color used for mental health awareness. Mental health awareness is important because it reduces the stigma and discrimination associated with mental illness and seeking treatment. It also offers education and support for family and friends of those who are struggling with their mental health. Mental health is a public health concern that can affect community members of all ages. In February of 2021, 731,000 adults had a mental health condition, and 55,000 youth ages 12 to 17 had depression in Oregon, as reported by the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Oregon was ranked 51st in 2023 in regard to prevalence of mental health and 30th in access to care by Mental Health America. An inadequate mental health system affects individuals, families, and communities. Comorbidity of substance use disorder and major depression have been found to be the strongest predictor of suicide ideation. In Oregon, NAMI reported in 2021 that 844 lives were lost to suicide, and 175,000 adults had thoughts of suicide. With effective behavioral health treatment, community members who experience mental health challenges can recover and lead a full life. If you are experiencing challenges with your mental health, we encourage you to speak with your health provider about local options for mental health services. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Tillamook County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim May to be Mental Health Awareness Month in Tillamook County, Oregon. Specifically, the third Thursday of every May is declared Mental Health Action and Wear Green Day. Residents are encouraged to wear green. I move approval of the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for bringing this before us and for joining us in person today.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 6 is consideration of a grant application to the Oregon Department of Human Services Resilience Hubs and Networks Program. We have Matt Kelly, Undersheriff, for this item, but I see that Paul Fournier and Lieutenant Silvera are here. Would you like to come up?
Sure.
Okay.
You know, you know about this more than I do, haven't I?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Rachel, Bill. So, my first time presenting for a grant, so I'm not sure what you need to know. This is also, did you already do the grant for this or present? So this is the same grant. There's $10 million available. I think Randy also has applied for one. So it's the same Resilience Hub grant. We did it for the generator at the jail. The jail generator was there. It's been there since the building was built. It's over 30 years old. Last year, in February, they determined that it's 7 years past its life. So definitely need one. And in the grant application, I basically addressed the fact that it serves as a hub for first responders. And during an emergency, we have showers there. Our families can go there and use the facilities if need to. So keeping the first responders active during an emergency. Also, we have a very vulnerable population with the adults in custody that are the most vulnerable because they can't get out of the harm's way. So the generator provides them with HVAC and food and everything else. So I use those as the selling points for it. It's for $160,000. I wish I had more paperwork, but as Rachel knows, it was a really wonky application where it was all done online, and then at the end of it, you're like, there's no PDF, there's nothing. I did request a PDF, didn't have it, but anyway, I do have the narrative I use. I also got 3 letters of recommendation or support from Commissioner Bell, Under Sheriff Kelly, and Tiffany from 911. So we're hopeful. Hopefully we can all get it.
Okay. Well, as you said, I provided a letter of support as liaison to the sheriff's office. I think this would be terrific if we were able to pay for that, and it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense as an emergency operations center, and so I'm hopeful.
I'll also back up 911 and back up
Right.
yeah.
Right. Thank you. Because if the 911 Emergency Operations Center fails in an emergency, then the sheriff's office is the backup center.
Exactly.
So I'm hopeful. I think it makes great sense, and thank you for going through the process.
You're welcome.
Questions?
No
Comments?
questions, just agree. I know when we got the McKinstry report, one of the things that was on there that was very concerning was the generator. I think that's one of our challenges at the county is maintaining all of the assets that we have, and the jail has definitely been one of those that has not received the amount of attention that it should, and the generator is, I think it was like the first thing on the list that McKinstry said, this is crucial. And it is crucial. It is absolutely crucial for all the reasons that you've suggested. So we will keep our fingers crossed that Tillamook County does well in the Resiliency Hub process. So thank you for preparing it.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. First of all, you listed some employees, and I'm assuming those are just filler names. Do we employ a John Smith, a Jim Jones, and a Jim
I'm not
Johnson?
aware of that. So I have,
I got it. Okay, I thought, boy,
Hiring's going well.
well, we are hiring, so if John Smith is available.
okay, yeah, you can always use some more. So my bigger question, this and then the one following are from the same source, the Resilience Hubs and Network Program. Could one of you, or maybe Randy could come up as well, could you take like 2 minutes and explain that source of funding? I'm not clear about that.
Are you up to date for that? 'Cause it's from the state.
Come on up, Randy.
Come on, my friend. You're our expert in these things.
No,
You are.
I can pretend. Yeah, the funding came, it's through one of the state passages that they had, and they allotted out $10 million for this year. And
They being the state of Oregon.
the state of Oregon, and it's basically gonna be administered through the Office of Resilience and Emergency Management, which is the same group that brought us our little containers down at the airport, that their main duty is mass sheltering, mass care is what they're responsible for. And so this grant was set up to help rural communities mainly, and to try to help those who don't get money from anywhere else usually. You know, it was something to help supplement some of the counties and the cities and communities that had a harder time in getting supplies to create the resiliency that is needed here. Their hope right now is, just to let you know, $10 million. I talked with them yesterday because I was down at their EAP down. Anyway, they have 720 applications. So can we say competitive? Yes. So, yeah, and so they had quite a few, but they don't mind having that because it's going to give them ammunition to go back to the legislation this coming year and say, look, here's the need we have throughout Oregon. We were only able to scratch the surface. We need more money to continue this process. And that's their whole hope. And so they were actually ecstatic to have that many applications because it shows the need is here in Oregon for resiliency. And so they're hoping that they can push through with that and again get additional financing through the years. They're hoping this is just the seed money and that it'll continue to go through with that. They've already started to grade them, from what I understand, because I went and asked to have mine sent to me so I could present it. They said, nope, can't do it. It's already got markings on it. And so they're still looking at trying to come up with a decision by the end of June is what they're hoping for to do that. And they're going to, we'll see if they do what they claim, that they're going to try to get this money out as quickly as possible and not be sitting on it and move through it. They did pull some money off the top for the tribes. From what I understand, there was some of the money that they earmarked for the tribes, and I'm not sure of the rationale, but that's what I've heard is that, so there was some money withheld, but they did not withhold any money for administrative purposes, which is kind of nice of them to not do that, so.
Do you know the total amount of dollars asked against what they have?
They didn't really want to let that one out. I hadn't heard that. I just got the numbers of, because I was really curious, and I talked with Jeff Gilbert with that office yesterday, and they were at 720 applications.
So they're likely well oversubscribed.
My guess is they probably got $1 billion in request is my guess. I don't know, a lot more than 10 million is my guess is that they probably, because I know just in this county alone, we probably reached the 10 million just for our county in applications.
Okay, well, thank you. That's good information, and certainly we'll get zero unless we ask. So we've
That's
asked.
the whole point, is that we need to ask, we need to get on their radar, because the other thing cool about this grant is they had a little checkbox. Do you want assistance in looking at other types of grants? And so if you check that, then PSU, Portland State, I think is who's doing it, is going to come back out and start working with other communities to look at other sources of funding. So we're hoping that that works too. And like I say, if we get that $1.50 in sack lunches, that's more than we had yesterday. So that's kind of the viewpoint. And just to let you know, county-wide, I know that with the TC4 group, there was probably 15 applications minimum sent in with that group for different things throughout the county. So it's pretty much. And I did one too, but that's the next agenda item, so we'll worry about that later.
Well, thank you. That's good information. And as you point out, if with this kind of request, that certainly should be on the radar for the next legislative session.
It's definitely going to open some eyes, I think. I think people are going to go, wow, there's some needs out there.
Thank you.
Terrific. You're welcome to stay because you have the next agenda item.
No, I do.
Any other questions or comments for Paul?
No.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
So, Madam Chair, in consideration of grant application to the Oregon Department of Human Services Resilience Hubs and Network Programs, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks for your work on this.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Okay, item 7 is consideration of a grant application to the Oregon Department of Human Services Resilience Hubs and Networks Programs for fiscal year 2024 equipment grant. Randy Thorpe.
Going through all these applications and working with the TC4 group, I finally, at the very end, I thought, wait a minute, what about me? So I started to look around and seeing maybe something that I could apply for that would help countywide. And so I checked around and found out that vehicles can be applied for. So I went from a Lamborghini to a Ferrari down to a Ford Explorer. I kind of got told I couldn't have what I wanted. Now, just joking aside here, I did talk with them and found out that vehicles can be applied for on this. And so I thought that this may be a good opportunity for us to get a dedicated emergency management vehicle, 4-wheel drive, things that can start carrying supplies and help me do, a better job, hopefully. And so that's what I decided to go ahead and apply for to see if that would work. And so hopefully, we can do that, because then again, I was looking at something that, after going through budget hearings, I realized that maybe a grant to get a vehicle is the best way to go. And that's the other thing that kind of sparked me to apply for a vehicle with this, and not the typical supplies that everybody else is asking for. So with that, hopefully, like I say, I've thrown in my one application among the 720. So, we're just, like I say, we can just wait with our fingers crossed and see. And a little bit more about this grant. I think that once they start letting us know where it went, that'll help us next year to find out exactly what they were looking for. Because I think right now everybody's just kind of throwing things out there of a wish list type of thing. And I think this will help us for next year to narrow down, what they're looking for and really fine tune it. So, and like I say, it gets it on the radar, and I'm hoping that will help for the next few years.
Terrific. Okay, thank you. Well, when you mentioned that through this budgeting process, you realized that you ought to apply for a grant for a vehicle, you made the treasurer smile in the back of the room. So I think she's grateful that you were, that you're being
told her I
proactive.
paid my property tax, so the budget is balanced now after I paid my taxes. So
Okay,
we took care of that $1 million. Anyway, so that's the other thing too, is that I was thinking again of, maybe what we can do to get what we need that
Terrific.
doesn't come out of our budget.
You bet. I think it's a good idea. Okay, well, thanks for your leadership, not only for this grant application, but also for the many community emergency preparedness groups that have made applications, and your help and assistance to them. So,
Yeah, we had some great applications go in countywide. I was really impressed with the TC4 group.
good,
They came together and kicked it out of the park.
good.
I don't see
Excellent.
how they can be denied.
Okay, all right.
Fingers
Cross our
crossed.
fingers, yeah.
Yes.
All right, commissioners, any questions, comments?
no, I'm impressed with what's going on, and look forward to some resolution, and you say maybe late June, they'll narrow it down or start the process. So.
That's what they're looking for, is that they've already started to do the initial there. And that was their whole goal, was to make this a very quick turnaround, very painless for most people. And just to get the money out. And most of the money, I don't know if you're aware of, it'll be in the form of cold hard cash. So they are sending the money to the individuals, and then they will be purchasing whatever they're getting. In most cases, there were some set packages that they could buy, but for a lot of the things, it just will be money coming into the treasurer for spending.
You know, Randy, is this pass-through money from the feds, or is this coming out of the state itself?
I think it's mainly state. This is my understanding. It's quite a bit of state money that's working its way through this initial one. And again, with this grant, just to let you know, there's no strings attached. There's no, we're gonna come check on everything and we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. No, as long as you buy what you said you're gonna buy, they'll come by to see how it is. They'd like to see a picture of it in action, that type of thing. But unlike a lot of the grants, there's none of this quarterly paperwork and we're gonna come out and inspect it. And if it doesn't look right, we're gonna yank it away from you and you'll never see it again. So that's the other beauty of this grant is that it's, once it's been placed, it's placed. And so it's a really good grant to do. So we're hoping we take that 10 million and 10 times it at least for next year.
More questions, comments?
No more questions. I think this is great. We'll keep our fingers crossed. The benefit of having multiple applications from Tillamook County is once they figure out what they're looking for, there's a high likelihood that one of them will meet the mark. So I know sometimes people are concerned that if you have too many applications, you're competing with one another. I think in this particular case, nobody knows exactly what their focus is. So while we may technically be competing with one another, in another way to look at it is we're giving them a lot of ways they can fund Tillamook County. So
Yes.
we'll hope
A
that we're
lot of
successful.
great, very varied projects.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's very, very promising, I
Yep.
think.
Terrific.
Thank you, Randy.
I think we're ready for a motion.
So, Madam Chair, in consideration of a grant application to the Oregon Department of Human Services Resilience Hubs and Networks Program for the 2024 Equipment Grant, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, Randy, you have the next item also, and before you leave, I'm also hoping that you will make a little announcement about your successful Rare Intern application.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, do you want to
Yeah.
do that now?
Yeah, I can do it in
Okay.
between. With the promptings from Commissioner Bell, I submitted an application to, it's rare, it's Rural Assistance, I'm not sure what it is. It's rare, it's through AmeriCorps and through, I'm gonna get this wrong. Is it beavers or is it ducks?
I think it's OSU.
OSU, yes. I always confuse them. I gotta make sure that I don't confuse them to the wrong people. But anyway, it's a intern program that they have that you submit an application with a project that you would like an intern to work on. It's an 11-month internship. You pay half their salary, which is $26,000. They're given a per diem to live out here. They come out, they do their work, and eventually what they're hoping for is that the intern learns some great skills, and if you happen to have an open position, that they can, move forward through that process. But yeah, she told me on a Thursday, the application was due on a Friday. So I just threw something together. It's kind of weird. And I thought, okay, at least I did what my commissioner would want me to do. And all of a sudden I get a phone call back that said, hey, we'd like to talk to you more about this. And it's like, whoa, okay. So I spent like an hour and a half talking with them and I thought it went pretty well. And then they finally sent me a letter back and said they're ready to move forward. So their next process is I have to give them a full job description. So I'm working with Jody with that. And then there'll be 3 to 4 candidates that they will vet, and then we will do our interviewing there to see if we can find out. So it's not guaranteed we'll find someone. We've got to make sure it's the right fit for everyone, and that's their whole point. So, but I'm very optimistic that we can do this. So I can't complain that I'm a Department of One anymore. So that's going to stop that little issue. But so anyway, so it's great news to have that happen, and I'm sure glad that Commissioner Bell knocked on my door and said, hey, have you thought about this? Because it's a program that I had heard about, but I wasn't that familiar with, and the deadline was so quick, and it was so great. And again, there's nothing to stop us from doing it again next year, and the year after, and the year after, if we don't find the one. So I'm hoping and my project is working with our volunteers, kind of a volunteer coordinator, and working with them and making sure their needs are met. And helping them do that. There's also a few of our plans that need to be updated, and so that's another part. Will be a certain percentage of their time will be assisting with putting together our Wildland Community Fire Protection Plan and updating our emergency operating plan. So it'll again be collecting information and data and meeting with people. So I think we've got some really good things for that individual to do, so.
Excellent.
So
It's
we're
really
excited.
good news.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for following through on short notice, and congratulations.
Yes, it
I
was
think
great.
that's a great opportunity. We've been talking about emergency preparedness groups in Tillamook County for a long time there. We have thriving emergency preparedness groups, and we have budding emergency preparedness groups, and they could use some support, and Randy is one person. And so we've been talking about how great it would be to have a volunteer coordinator or somebody who was attending those various emergency preparedness meetings, attending the TC4 meetings, figuring out what those groups need. We have groups like the range from North Tillamook County, the Nehalem Bay Emergency Volunteer Corps, that is a model for the nation. They're amazing, and they've been working at this for a long time, for over 10 years, 12 years maybe. And then we have groups that have just barely begun their work. They've been working on it for a year or two. And we have individuals who are interested in forming a group, but they haven't yet. And so what I hope that we'll be able to accomplish is to take the model, the North County model, into the other emergency preparedness groups and say, what do you need here? Because each community doesn't need the exact same thing. But what do you need here, and how would this model work for you? How can we adapt this model to work for you and create plans for them to be able to say, this is how NETARTS, for example, is going to develop their plan over time. So, Randy as one person can't accomplish all that good work, but this makes me very hopeful. So thank you. Commissioners?
Agree. Yeah, I know that we have talked for a long time about how to expand this department, and the RARE is a great program. They do a lot of different things, that there was the chamber had one that worked on housing for a while. I mean, they just have different areas of focus. So I'm super excited that they also do emergency management stuff. So I think it'll be a great addition to your department for sure.
Truly.
Thank you. Being mindful of the budget, is this person, where does the money come from, and what's the employee status? If you're successful and someone comes in as a 11-month or whatever the circumstances are they actually a county employee? And maybe I'll look back at the treasurer behind you too. In other words, they actually go on the county payroll, or how does that work?
It's the first I've heard of it.
Everywhere I've ever worked with a RARE or an AmeriCorps, it is not. It's a stipended position, so it's different than an employee everywhere I've worked with them. But I can't speak to that for certain in this case. But generally, it's stipended.
Yes, well, that's what I was thinking. So they're not necessarily entitled to benefits and all of that. They're there but you said the match, the county has to match like 26,000 or
Yeah,
something.
we pay half the salary to the university. I've looped
13,000.
Jody into this, and so I'm gonna be running really heavily to answer those questions and to make
okay.
sure that we get in, because she is familiar with the program. And so she's the one that's helping me work with the position description and move through how that individual fits in with being a county employee, because they will be driving county vehicles, they will be using county equipment, that sort of thing. And so
But they may be an employee of Oregon State, for example, and
Right.
something similar to the intern that we had through Tillamook Lightway for a period of time that was
Sam.
really, so, okay, well, I'm good with that. I think it's great. And you're right, Commissioner Bell points out you're one person, and our county's 75 miles long, and if something goes wrong, it's gonna affect us all. And I don't know how in the world one person is expected to take care. Fortunately, we have the volunteer groups that have become, as was pointed out, a model for much of America. That's just absolutely incredible what they've done up north, and the one down south now is pretty progressive as well. And so I'm hoping that, well, my plan is if we have a tsunami to be over somewhere else, but that may not be the case, so I'm hoping that they get all this put together. And what I've heard about some of the little sheds and survival pods and things, boy, that at some point that may literally save lives. So good for us, good for everybody, and if this takes it a step forward, I'm right behind it.
Rachel might be able to shed some light on when we had Samantha. Was she a RARE? She was, wasn't she?
No, she was, yeah, leadership. I can't remember the entity, but it was some kind of a fellow, and I can't remember if she was an employee or not, but it was a very special case that we worked through HR on, and,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, thank you. So Sean, I'm sorry you didn't know about this yet, but Randy just found out yesterday. So,
That's fine.
yeah,
I
so
think
it's
it
brand new.
sounds like a great opportunity. Samantha was not a county employee,
Okay,
even though she utilized an office downstairs and county computers and whatnot.
okay. All right, that's exciting. Thanks for,
It
thanks
is.
for
It's great.
letting us know. Okay, so we can move on to item 8, which is consideration of a memorandum of agreement with the South Tillamook County Emergency Volunteer Corps.
Well, this agreement is that in last budget season, we earmarked money for both the North County group and the South County group to give them money to help with their emergency preparedness. North County group submitted their scope of work to me a few months ago. I've just received the scope of work of what South County is using their money for. So what this agreement is just an agreement for us to pass that money on to them. And it's set up with their scope of work. And what happens here, the monitoring of it is that I will be in communication with them to see how they're coming about and how they're spending, and making sure that they spent the money on what they said they were going to spend it on, and that they are spending the money and not just saving it. I've done that with the North County. They send me monthly reports of how everything is going. So there is monitoring on the use of the money. With South County, it's been great. They have built, we talked about it, they have 7 sheds that they have built down there with other monies. Their problem now was, how do we stock it? And that's when I worked with them and said, the money that the county has is a perfect opportunity. So that's the bulk of what they're using. And they've already started doing the ordering and starting to get those 7 sheds supplied. And that's the bulk of the money they're using. They're also using it for CERT training material. They're starting to get a fairly active CERT program going. They're expanding it, but they need additional funds to help with the training and supplies that they need for their CERT individuals. So again, another excellent opportunity and way to use that money. The other one, again, is just their operating expense, because any group does have expenses. And so that's the other one that they have on there, is just basically their insurance, post office box, registration on the vehicles that they own. And then the other is their preparedness outreach. And this is just money that they utilize when they do the community fairs around. Because they usually have a booth at Dory Days, and they have at the other, at the Clover Days?
Clover's Day.
Clover's Day.
Clover's Day.
Single cow, just one.
Single cow, yes, and blue cow, right, down Main Street. And so that's another way they use the money, and so it's a great use of the money, and it's well documented, and I see great success of where the county stepped in and helped. So I'm hoping that we can again get this done this year to send them their checks so they can start to pay the bills that are coming in down there on their supplies. So any questions on?
I think it's terrific. It's, we've talked about this before, but it bears repeating that the community preparedness groups are largely self-funded. They're self-funded, they're self-organized, it's all volunteers, they're getting their own grants, they're funding their own evacuation centers, they're funding their own pods and supplies. And it's, in some cases, the cities are supporting them. The county is doing this level of support, which I think is great. I think it could be more if we had more, certainly. There's a big question about who should be funding the emergency preparedness supplies and structures, et cetera, that visitors will need, because we all know that in the summer we have hundreds of thousands of visitors, and it's not appropriate for us to expect people who live on the coast, who live in a tsunami zone, to not only fund what is needed for themselves and their families and their neighbors, but also for tens of thousands of visitors. You know, it's not realistic, it's not appropriate. So that's a question that we're trying to solve currently, but I think that this level of support is great, and I hope that in the future we can find more.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely something that we need to look at. And all the budget stuff that we're doing, one of the pieces we've been looking at are fees and what could a fee be. And as we talked about, this is an interesting one to think about whether or not you could add a fee to your overnight stays. That would be a specific emergency fee, emergency response fee. You could generate the type of money that we need for these sort of organizations. So I just made a little note to throw that into one of our investigations of what we do, because the fee, whoever bears the burden of the fee has to also benefit from the fee itself. And so if we were talking about preparing for our visitors, it's an opportunity. Anyway, I think it's on all of our minds. How do we generate?
Right.
Yeah. So no, I think this is important. And certainly when the Futures Council did their work a few years ago, which was going out to the community and saying, what are the top and most important issues for the county to be looking at? Emergency preparedness was one of the ones that came out at the top of the list. And so when we did have the opportunity, when Gordon retired and we brought Randy in, one of our key areas of focus and change was that we really wanted to make sure that we were participating more fully as the county in that emergency preparedness work. And I'm really pleased, Randy, that we are, and I'm, excited that we can continue to fund these volunteer-driven groups because we can't do it all, and their participation is crucial.
Yeah, their involvement is just tremendous. And when the county can step up and give them whatever help we can, I think it's a extremely good investment.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say that if I didn't trust our volunteer groups.
Sure.
They need all the help they can get because they're just so good at what they do. Every one of them. I can honestly say that we do not have a bad group in the county anymore. We used to, but not anymore. They're all top notch. They're all moving forward. Even these fledgling ones, the very starting ones, are just so excited, and so it's great to see them moving forward.
Commissioner?
Thank you. Well, Tillamook County runs in large measure on volunteers. And if we did not have the numbers and the quality, that we certainly couldn't get a lot of things done. So as to Commissioner Bell's point about the visitors, the Oregon coast, I think, is unique, but, not all that unique because lots of places depend upon visitors and tourism, but certainly we're more dependent than a lot of other counties in Oregon. And so to the extent we can fashion some sort of a way forward to help our visitors pay for the burden they put upon the entire county. And I say burden only because that means that if something happened, there would be a response simply as a basis of humanity. But unfortunately, those things cost money. So how this all comes together with the volunteers and the funding, I think, is yet to be determined, but they're good models working. And, without the volunteers, we wouldn't even be where we are. So, what's happening here and what you do, and then like we talked earlier, if you get some help, I think we can take some really good strides forward, and, someday something is bound to happen. And of course, Tillamook County has more natural disasters, I believe, than any other county in Oregon and almost any on the West Coast, simply from the flooding and our topography and all of that. And so, we look after ourselves, but sometimes we need help. So I'm good with the way we're headed and encouraged, and I would agree with what he just said, that we don't have any bad volunteers. Occasionally, somebody doesn't show up somewhere, but, bless them, they're doing what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of a memorandum of agreement with South Tillamook County Emergency Volunteer Corps, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next month.
Okay. Item 9 is consideration of restrictive covenant for the installation of cell tower infrastructure on county property at Ming Creek. Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff.
If I could take number 9 and 10 together?
Please. Number 10 is consideration of restrictive covenant for the installation of cell tower infrastructure on county property at Fall Creek.
Thank you. The board approved 2 leases with Verizon Wireless for the installation of 2 cell towers on county-owned property on Highway 6. It's part of their larger effort to improve cell service along, or create cell service along Highway 6. They're starting to go through the permitting process, and one of the requirements by community development is that the property owner, the county, sign a restrictive covenant because it is in a forestry use, or it is adjacent to forest zoned property. And so it's a very standard form, basically acknowledges that the cell tower infrastructure is adjacent to forestry uses and that we're not going to complain about whatever happens in those uses. So there's 2 restrictive covenants before you today, one for Mean Creek and one for Fall Creek.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Thank you. No, I'm in support of this, and I will mention this just incidentally, and then I think perhaps at our session this afternoon. Yesterday, I received a call from former Senator Johnson, who has put together, as she likes to do, she's put together a pretty, I would call a high-level group, including our representative and senator and others, to go over to the Department of Forestry a week from Friday and talk about cellular service and the fiber that's going up and the role that the Department of Forestry plays in it. And so she asked me to come over and talk about what Lightwave is doing and some of the other things. And so I'm going to want a little more information on this, and then the Verizon, and maybe you and I can visit after this. So this group is going in to say, this is happening and things are happening in terms of the paperwork as we're considering now. And that soon there will be cell service and internet service all the way over Highway 6 and down into Washington County. And so that's kind of an addendum to what we're talking about here. But this is a piece of a much larger picture now that's bringing in the Department of Forestry, and because they control or own a good share of the property up that way. So things are happening, and this is a piece of it. So thank you.
Terrific, thank you.
Excellent. And so I know after talking with Department of Forestry, there's just been concern about the value of putting a tower and what you need to charge. Is that part of the conversation?
That's part of the conversation, and you
Okay.
can probably guess where former Senator Johnson is with the Department of Forestry, that they're trying to embellish their particular budget, maybe at others' expense, and she'd like to see some rationale come back into the conversation.
Perfect,
And
thank
that's
you.
not exactly the words she used, but something close to that.
Her words are always colorful. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I've had a couple of conversations with Department of Forestry as well, and their challenge as they see it is that they charge others for towers in other places and have a set rate. So I'll be curious to see the outcome of that
Yeah,
conversation as they look, as we would have to look as being responsible for the common good of the public. So for them trying to balance that piece. So as always, it's good to have Senator Johnson or former Senator Johnson in your court. So.
For sure, yeah. I have talked to Senator Johnson on the phone on that subject also, and I know she's seriously advocating for Tillamook County and for Washington County to be able to get cell service up over the hill, and I'm grateful for her service in that. Okay, so I think we're ready for a motion.
So, Madam Chair, in consideration of a restrictive covenant for the installation of cell tower infrastructure on county property at Ming Creek, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And 10.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a restrictive covenant for the installation of cell tower infrastructure on county property at Fall Creek, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 11 is consideration of change order number 1 to contract number 6371, prevailing wage rate contract for construction with the Saunders Company, Inc. for the Kiwanda Corridor Project at Keep Kiwanda Parking Lot and Restroom. Rachel Haggerty.
Last April, the board signed the contract for around $5.5 million for the entire reconstruction of the Cape Kiwanda parking lot, along with the associated amenities. I'm pleased to report it is entirely paved with the first lift, and as we speak, they're putting the second lift of asphalt on the parking lot. It looks really good. As you can imagine, with the complexity of this project and over that time period of almost a year, there's been a lot of moving parts. There's been credits coming to the county for project changes or just general cost savings with supplies and labor, as well as changes that would cause an increase. And so we've just been tracking those over time, and this is the first change order to come before you. The details of the change orders are described on the last page. There's overages in the amount of $197,328, and there's credits in the amount of $155,766. So that equates to a net change order increase of $41,562. There will be another change order coming before you next week. We're up against the clock for the year-end billing, and so we wanted to get this one before you, and I'm not sure if the next one will make it into the fiscal year-end billing, but we wanted to get this one before you. You'll see another one next week, but things are going great, and I think we're on the home stretch. So the change order is ready for your consideration, and if you have any questions about the change order specifically, we can dive into those.
Thank you. Questions?
Well, thank you. No, I have no questions. I've been watching it daily as well, and Rachel is right. They have the first lift down, they'll be doing a second, and I think in some areas they're actually going to 6-inch. So there's a third, and I'm not just sure where that is. That's what Chris Lady had told me, and I noticed today or this morning at 7:30 or whenever I drove by, they're doing the little strip out on the street where they had to take it out and actually on the Cape Coanda Drive. Yeah, there
Live on camera.
That looks pretty familiar. And they also made looked to me like a 20-foot in-way to the lodging property there as well. And so these, without going and walking around the project, having seen a lot of these over the years, they certainly know what they're doing, and they're mindful of the weather and all of that, but boy, it sure looks different than it did a month ago.
Yeah, it's exciting that we're getting so close.
I think we're ready for motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of change order number 1 to contract number 6371, prevailing wage rate contract for construction with Saunders Company, Inc. for the Kiwanda Corridor Project, Cape Kiwanda Parking Lot and Restroom, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Okay, item 12 is consideration of amendment number 6 to intergovernmental agreement number 4626 with the City of Tillamook for the Southern Flow Corridor Landowner Preferred Alternative Project. Rachel Haggerty.
As part of the Southern Flow Corridor project that was implemented several years ago now, flood mitigation and habitat restoration project, working with several partners. The county needed to acquire several pieces of property, one of which was formerly owned by Sodre, and the county still retains that property. But the concept has been, since it was acquired, that given its vicinity to the City of Tillamook boundaries and the urban growth boundary, that at the completion of the project, that property would be conveyed by donation to the City of Tillamook. This intergovernmental agreement describes that process. It is not yet conveyed to the city, and so we just keep renewing this agreement. There's a lot of coordination with the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, who provided the funding for the county to acquire the property. There's a large process there, and then the City of Tillamook has had a lot of staff turnover in recent years, and so we just can't seem to get over the hurdle of transferring the property, but it's still something we want to do, and so we keep renewing this intergovernmental agreement. So it's actually went out 2 years this time, so maybe we don't have to talk about it next year, but it's ready for your consideration.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
No, thank you. I think it's pretty clear and just a piece of an ongoing process.
Thank you. No, I appreciate this. I did get a call from a constituent asking why we were selling this property to the City of Tillamook, and I didn't have the level of detail that you now have, so I can go back and share that. I did let them know that it was part of the Salmonberry Trail, the Southern Flow Corridor, and that it was just an intergovernmental agreement. But someone must have been watching the City of Tillamook's meeting, because I can see that they have already signed, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of amendment number 6 to the intergovernmental agreement number 4626 with the City of Tillamook for the Southern Flow Corridor Landowner Preferred Alternative Project, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Okay. That is the conclusion of our action items. We're going to move into executive session at this point. And I don't know if we anticipate making any decisions at the conclusion of the executive session? No? Okay. Terrific. Then we're going to move into an executive session under ORS.
192-6602-sub-E.
Terrific. Thank you.
You gonna read the announcements first or no?
Jane, do you want to stay for this executive session, or should I read announcements right now? Okay. Why don't I just refer our viewers to the county website and the commissioner's landing page for our announcements, and we will move into executive session. Good morning, Michael. Thanks for joining us in person. Nice to see you.
Yes, it worked out well. I had poker at my dad's house last night. No, I did terribly. It was just cold hands the whole night. Terrible. That's okay. Well, yeah, I think I was down 20 and he was up 20, so we had a few other guys that did a lot better and some did worse. Smattering.
There's no link, Debbie.
Right, so I'm just gonna pause the meeting.
Okay, are we ready to jump in?
1 second.
Okay.
But yes, it's nice that they do that.
Yeah, he says, I achievers, a little.
Yeah. So remind me which one's your granddaughter?
My little girl was, she didn't come up.
Oh,
She
okay.
was in the National Honor
Yeah.
Society.
Oh, okay.
And then she's going into ROTC, so, yeah, she was the one who.
Oh, they were sitting behind me and yeah.
So I looked at the officer.
Yeah.
Gave her a scholarship.
Nice.
For the ROTC.
Nice, very cool.
Okay, Deb, are you ready?
Yes.
We are coming out of executive session at 10:50. We did not make any decisions in executive session. And we are now coming back into the board meeting and adjourning the board meeting at 10:51.
I'll be up in a minute, Debbie.
Okay.
But we will help with that interesting individual space.